Tetris Attack for the Super Nintendo came out in August of 1996 and has remained one of my favorite puzzle games throughout all my years of gaming. The name, however, is fairly misleading because it has nothing to do with the Tetris series other than the fact that it's also a puzzle game. Hank Rogers of the Tetris Company actually stated in an interview at E3 in 2009 that he regretted giving Nintendo the permission to use the name. The true name of the series Tetris Attack belongs to is Puzzle League, and it's just one of the many versions of this puzzle game. The goal of all the games is to line up 3 of the same color blocks to remove them. What always caught me as the coolest feature of the game is the Versus mode, where you're able to take on opponents by dumping garbage on them when you clear 4 or more blocks at once, or clear multiple blocks in a combo. Well, how is a combo done? It's sort of like this. There are also gray blocks with an exclamation mark that will dump garbage on your opponent even if they aren't cleared in a combo. Tetris Attack was not the original game in the series, but actually a Super Mario World 2 skin they put on a Japanese game called Pon. The games are identical in many ways. Replace Yoshi with some anime chick and replace some of the bosses in Super Mario World 2 with some more anime characters. A few upgrades were made when they brought Pon to stateside. They added a cheat code that allows you to play as the bosses, a password system for the Versus mode, as well as tweaking the AI slightly for higher levels. For the most part, the music has remained the same between the 2 games with an exception of the title music, the game over screen, and Yoshi's theme, which replaced Lip's theme from Pon. Along with the Super Nintendo version of Tetris Attack, Nintendo also released a Game Boy version. It's pretty much the same game, except you can't see what your opponent is doing in Versus mode. Instead, it shows a health bar. Other than that, it sure is a Game Boy version. The falling animation for the blocks and switching animation is virtually non-existent, and the music, while being the same tunes, overall are much lower bit depth that can wear on your ears after time. One thing that's a bit nice about this version is because the block falling animation has a slight bit of lag compared to the SNES version, you're able to pull off some combos that you normally would not be able to pull off otherwise. The next version of Puzzle League we saw here in the US was 4 years later when Pokémon Puzzle League was released for the N64 on September 25th, 2000. This game is notable because it was the first Pokémon game to be directly based on the anime rather than the anime being based on the game. Because the English dub tracks were used in this game from the anime, the game was never released in Japan. Even though this was the 5th entry into the Puzzle League series, it was actually the first game to have the words Puzzle and League in the title. Strangely enough, this game was one of the only N64 games to feature full motion video, or FMV.
Professor Oak? Hello, Ash. I have an important message for you. They're starting in a...
My guess is because the game itself was originally small enough to fit on an SNES cart, this allowed it to have enough room to fit video files on it as well. When I first saw this game, I found it laughable when Nintendo put a gimmicky Pokemon skin on Tetris Attack. I didn't play it until a few years ago, and then there's actually some pretty nice features that they added in. Because of the additional processing power of the N64 over the SNES, you're able to navigate between blocks faster. Additionally, the processing power improved the AI in the Versus mode as well. Before each Versus match, you're allowed to choose which Pokemon you want to battle as. This, however, has no effect on the gameplay whatsoever, so unless you get some sort of huge personal boost from being able to play as Pikachu, it really doesn't matter. This game also featured a new mode where you can play it in 3D by navigating around a cylinder of blocks rather than just a flat square. This game mode is pretty good if you're looking to make your brain explode. I, however, personally do not care for it because it's kinda gimmicky and it makes it hard to see what you're doing. 4 days before Pokemon League came out here in the States, in Japan, Pokemon Puzzle Challenge was released for the Game Boy Color. We didn't see this game stateside for another 3 months after its Japanese release. This game is a revised version of Tetris Attack for the original Game Boy, again with a Pokemon theme. It runs much better, however, compared to the original Game Boy version, and of course being a Game Boy Color title, it was in color. The final entry, so far, into the Puzzle League series is Planet Puzzle League for the Nintendo DS, released June 4th, 2007. Much of the standard gameplay remains the same, you're clearing blocks, trying to get combos, etc., but with a twist on this version is that you're playing with a touchscreen. This allows you to switch blocks insanely fast compared to the original games. You can switch a block from one side to the complete opposite side in less than a second, where in the older games it would have taken a few seconds. To play this game, you have to hold the Game Boy like a book instead of upright. I might have been spoiled by the OLED screen on my PS Vita, but it feels like no matter how I hold it, the screen gets a little bit distorted due to the angle. Aside from the touchscreen, there's numerous play mode variations added as well as an entirely new item block system. With these new item blocks, you'll have the ability to make your opponent's playfield become inaccessible, make your opponent's playfield begin to shake, as well as change some of your opponent's blocks into unclearable blocks for a short period of time. There's a few others, but I'm not going to list them all. My biggest complaint with Planet Puzzle League is that because the touch controls allow you to move blocks so quickly, you can actually clear quite a bit of blocks by just running the stylus over the screen at random. I actually beat a level doing this just to see if I could. On August 31st, 2009, a DSi version of Planet Puzzle League came out called Puzzle League Express. It's basically a stripped-down version of Planet Puzzle League, and consider you can get the real full version of Puzzle League on the DS for all of a whopping $3.25 on Amazon, there's really no reason to buy the DSi version. All in all, Puzzle League is one of my favorite puzzle game formats of all time. Even though the titles are pretty much reskinned versions of Panel de Pon, each one has its own individual charm that makes each of the titles great. Well, except for maybe the Game Boy version of Tetris Attack. That one kinda sucks and really hasn't aged well compared to the rest. The two best versions of this series are clearly the N64 game, Pokémon Puzzle League, and Planet Puzzle League for the DS. They both run the fastest and have features that many of the other ones don't have. As for me, if I want to play some Puzzle League, I'll be throwing Tetris Attack in the SNES and keeping it old school with Yoshi. Did you like that video? I did a few other videos if you want to check them out. There's one I did about Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage for the Super Nintendo, and I did another one about Forza right here. So, yeah, click them if you want, or not. Cool too. Hope you guys have a nice day.